Everybody, what is going on? It is Crypto Bobby. Hope you are having a great day, great night, wherever you might be watching in from. Coming to you again for another edition of Crypto Happy Hour this evening. Going real nuts with as always, some Poland Spring. Not drinking tonight. Snoop Dogg's performing at XRP, the standard XRP Army. So if anybody's going to that, have a good time. It's blockchain week in New York, but I had some stuff to do at home tonight, unfortunately, so I had to go home, but I will be out and about at Consensus and at some meetups tomorrow, so should be a good time. Definitely excited for that. What's up, Eric, B Pollen, Jack, BitConnect to the moon? Yeah, Jack, dude, BitConnect is crushing it. Absolutely. Yeah, like Trayvon said, buy the BitConnect dip. That's worked out very well. That was solid financial advice. And I think anybody who did that is probably down about 99.99% of their earnings. So it's good. Always good advice. So popping into today's discussion, obviously we can talk about the market taking a little bit of a pullback in the past 24, 36 hours or so. Bitcoin down, Ethereum down, Ripple down, basically everything down across the board minus Zcash, because Zcash is getting listed on the good old exchange of the Winklevi on Gemini. And not only that, but the fact that Zcash was actually approved by the New York Department of Financial Services to trade, which is pretty crazy to think about. There are a lot of people out there that thought that privacy coins will never be successful because the governments will try to shut them down and the governments will go after them. This is very much contrary to that, and I'll pull up we could pull up Zcash NYDFS. So we'll pull this bad boy up. So here's the press release, and this is from the New York Department of Financial Services, for anybody who gives a crap. But I used to personally sell cloud accounting software to CFOs in New York. So I am pretty familiar with the New York Department of Financial Services, and it is not the easiest regulatory group to comply with. So the fact that the NYDFS has come out and said, hey, Gemini, which is one of the other exchange alternatives to our good friends over at Coinbase, then in this scenario, they're able to trade Zcash, which I think is a huge deal. A lot of people are obviously talking about that, but that's one of the big reasons that Zcash is really the only cryptocurrency up in the past 24 hours when everything else is selling off. So rough to see that, obviously, but it is what it is. And looking at some of these questions here, a couple different things I definitely want to talk about. Obviously, the market is pulled back a little bit here. It is what it is. But two announcements that came out, and I think that a lot of the talk at Consensus that I'm seeing is about institutional moves into the cryptocurrency market, and about these large scale players get into the cryptocurrency market. With some of what's going on, Coinbase and Ledger both have made big moves, big announcements lately that I think are very positive in the long run. When you talk about Coinbase adding a really pretty advanced suite of institutional products, specifically they created Coinbase Prime, which is an even more institutional focused version of GDAX. Now GDAX just being for sophisticated retail traders, and Coinbase Prime basically being for institutions to access more advanced trading solutions. In addition to some of the things with Coinbase Custody, which is pretty cool to see. So basically, Coinbase is partnering with an SEC-regulated broker-dealer, and they have a number of partners, hedge funds that they are launching with off the top. So that should be pretty interesting to keep an eye on. And then Ledger, which I think a lot of people just assume Ledger is cold storage wallets. That's all they're doing. It's not. They made a big announcement recently today, with partnership with Nomura, where they are going to be doing a custody solution for large institutional players as well. So not only is Ledger one of the leading custody solutions, in my opinion, for regular people like you and me, where you can just pop out your ledger, you can trade on a decentralized exchange, you can keep your cryptocurrency there, and it is widely considered as one of the safer alternatives to everything moving forward. Now in the future, since you can think, if I'm a big trader, if Goldman Sachs opens up a trading desk, what's the odds that Goldman Sachs is going to trust their trader to take out his ledger, plug that into his laptop, and actually trade something? Not going to happen. There is a more sophisticated set of tools there from a custody perspective that are going to be required. Both Ledger and Coinbase are working on that, so it should be fun to see how they compete against each other, what the different alternatives are. But I think both signs are very bullish in the long run in terms of just increasing adoption within the institutional markets, because a lot of people have talked about, hey, we're maybe, I don't know if we're necessarily at the tipping point of retail, or we've kind of oversaturated the retail market, but there is a lot of money that is looking to flow into the market from these larger investors, or to at least trade. Doesn't mean they're all going to go long. That's not going to be the case, but should be interesting to see how that ends up panning out. Not exactly sure why my audio is 70% left, 40% right. Let me see if I can just, give me 1 second here, if I can fix that for you guys. Let me see if this does anything. Oh, shit. And we're back. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you try to fix OBS on audio and you don't have the latest version of OBS downloaded on your computer, and you just crash everywhere. So sorry about that, guys. My apologies. Always try to fix things on the fly if I can, but it is what it is. So taking a look at some of these, taking a look at some of these questions here. Let's see, pop through a lot of questions on Funfair. You need to put OBS on the blockchain. Not everything needs to be on the blockchain, folks. Not everything needs to be on the blockchain. So DGN says, am I at Consensus? I was at Consensus yesterday. I didn't get a chance to go today. I watched some of the, I just kind of had to work and get some things done at that point, really over the course of the day, wrapping up a partnership that I'll be going public with tomorrow that I'm pretty excited about. Should be pretty awesome. Really cool project working in the security token space. So pretty fun announcement on that I was working yesterday and today to seal the deal on that. But in addition to that, I did get a chance to go to Consensus yesterday, did not go today. Consensus is incredibly crowded. Like, if you guys, maybe some of you are there, or maybe some of you were there yesterday or today, but I can't even describe, like, the conference really does need to move to Las Vegas, because New York doesn't really have any conference centers big enough to fit all of the people that are at Consensus right now. I don't know if that's, people might say that's bullish, who knows, but I don't think you can really attribute it one way or another. But all I know is CoinDesk Consensus sold a ton of tickets and has made a ton of money from that event, and it is super crowded. So take that with a grain of salt. Take it and think about it however you'd like, but it is incredibly crowded there. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of new individuals in the space. There's also a lot of familiar faces there too. So I think a lot of the big players in the industry are in New York right now, running around, going to different events, doing different things. So it's been fun to meet a lot of different people, and also continue to meet new people tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. So I'm pumped about that. So seeing a couple different questions here. How am I feeling about Ravencoin? Did you get to hang out with Bruce Fenton? I did not have a chance to hang out with Bruce Fenton. I've met him in passing once or twice, but don't have a personal relationship with him. He does usually have some appearances at these conferences. I do like Bruce. I think he's a pretty genuine dude, and I like Ravencoin. Still have my Ravencoin holding, and might continue to add some more over time. That's one that I think is kind of a little bit of a moonshot play. I mean, we're talking about Ravencoin just in general. Where are we at? What's the market cap for this bad boy? Ravencoin's market cap is what, 45 mil. So I mean, it's not tiny by any stretch, but it's still up quite a bit since I got in. But I've started to look more and more at some of these cryptocurrencies. That are in the maybe 20 to $60 million range market cap wise, that I think might have a potential to get up to 2, 3, 400 million as kind of longer, short, I would say medium to longer term bets, looking for some outsized returns in addition to some of the larger cap coins that I have, like a Bitcoin or like an Ethereum or like a Zcash or like some of those other ones as well. Yeah, somebody mentioned Raven has high inflation. There have definitely been some solid criticisms of Raven. That is for sure. I think that across the board, you could criticize a lot of these different projects. There is, pretty high inflation. I've seen some criticisms online in regards to the concentration of money or of wealth of Ravencoin from the people that started mining early or started acquiring Ravencoin early. It's pretty heavily concentrated at the top. You might view that as maybe a good thing potentially. I'm not exactly sure. It's not good from a distribution of wealth or distribution of tokens or coins, but at the same point in time, maybe in terms of it doing well in the long run, kind of pumping. If you're looking at it from a pure price speculative perspective, those early entrants might be more apt to hold. We'll have to see how that ends up panning out, though. Mr. Awesome, do I hate Ripple? I do not hate Ripple. I think personally, I do not hate Ripple. I think I think Ripple is one of the more legitimate companies in the cryptocurrency blockchain space. They are very professional. I do think that there are valid criticisms of the XRP token itself. How the XRP token is used, the actual utility of the XRP token, and the use of the XRP token is basically one of the largest, if not the kind of sole revenue generator for the Ripple company. And people saying that Ripple and XRP are not the same, or there's people trying to remove the link between Ripple and XRP. There is a strong link. There is a massive link. But I don't hate Ripple. I don't hate XRP, and I do think the Ripple team is extremely professional and smart and can execute. I personally think that the Ripple community on Twitter are some of the most aggressive people, like overly aggressive in a bad way. Anytime anybody says something negative about Ripple, they just like literally pounce and go nuts and act like somebody's killing babies and murdering their parents. And it's like, if you want to criticize a coin, who cares? You're allowed to do that. I'm allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. So I think Ripple is just overly sensitive. The Ripple community, excuse me, not Ripple itself, but the Ripple community is overly sensitive, which is one reason that it's interesting, because Ripple itself and the XRP token is really supposed to be utilized by institutions, by banks, but for the most part, the community is a bunch of small retail investors that just get overly crazy about a lot of these issues. Although the same could be said about a lot of other cryptocurrencies as well, a lot of other tokens as well. But that's just kind of my thoughts on Ripple as a whole. Somebody said Bitcoin private people are the same. Yeah, they're a little bit aggressive. Typically, the higher the all-time high, or the typically what I've seen is the difference between the percentage off the all-time high. So Ripple's at $3. If it was where is it now? If Ripple was at $3, all-time high, let's see, percentage down. The all-time high for Ripple is 384. It's at 70 cents right now. The lower that goes, the more aggressive people get, because they're the people that may have bought very high. Who knows? Greg B., what are your thoughts on the subject of decentralized exchanges? Are they still in high demand? I do believe that, I do personally, I work at AirSwap, literally an employee of AirSwap. So I am bullish on decentralized exchanges, decentralized marketplaces, token traders, whatever it might be. AirSwap plays in that space, and I like the way that AirSwap approaches. I like the way personally that AirSwap approaches the space. 0x, Loopring, Kyber, IDEX, or Aurora DAO. There are a lot of companies, organizations, decentralized trading places out there. And I do think that there is a legitimate use case for it in the long run. I do think that we, as maybe a subset of the industry, the liquidity needs to grow. The liquidity needs to grow, the volume of trading needs to grow, the trading pairs need to grow. So that's something that, whether you're using a 0x relay or you're using something on Kyber or Loop Ring or whatever it might be, or IDEX, the more trading pairs, the more liquidity, the better the experience. That's also, that's very important. And then also it has to be a better, easier experience than it has to be essentially on par or better. And I had a conversation. I was speaking on a panel, or I was moderating a panel at the Fluidity Summit, which was an event that Fluidity held, and basically the CEO of IDEX, or it's Aurora DAO, but IDEX is one of the exchange that they run, which I'm sure a lot of you folks use. Alex Wern, the CEO of IDEX, was there, and he had a good point. And I've said this before. I've said something similar like this before, but he basically said until the experience of decentralized exchanges is on par or exceeds that of a centralized exchange, people are going to continue to use centralized exchanges like Binance, like Bittrex, like whatever, in the long run. So that's something that the user experience component of it definitely has to increase and improve, and people have to be very cognizant of that, because I don't personally think that there is a lot more value to a decentralized exchange outside of just not having your assets on an exchange, but that has to be, that has to be realized for sure. Cavs or Celtics? I don't think it really matters. The Warriors are going to win the NBA championship anyway, so it don't matter. So looking at some of these questions here. What do you think of paid groups? I've talked about this before. I'm sure there's a lot of paid groups out there where people get value. I'm sure there's some paid groups out there that are scammy as hell. Just do your own due diligence. I think the argument for a paid group is pretty simple. If it costs, a lot of them are pretty expensive, but if it costs you $1,000 and you have $10,000 in your portfolio and you make a 20% trade, and you make $2,000, and that paid for itself pretty quickly. So that's something that you should keep in mind. I don't run a paid group. I've never participated in a paid group, but I know there are people out there that do very well running them and also participating in them. So I think it's just the type of thing where you probably want to reach out to people and see how they've found the experience in these groups before you actually join anything like that. Hi, Bobby. Do you see EOS over $100 in a year? No, I personally don't. I think that's a pretty aggressive valuation. We're already talking about $10 billion for EOS right now. You're looking at essentially not a full on, probably about 80. I don't remember the math off the top of my head, but maybe about 85 $85 USD. I mean, you're talking about like an 8x from here, and it's already, EOS is up massively over the course of the year. I mean, the past 6 months, EOS is up 681%. You're talking about another 8x on that. If EOS becomes the platform of choice over Ethereum, then that's definitely possible, but I don't foresee EOS necessarily becoming I know there's a ton of problems with Ethereum, but I think there is so much mind share around Ethereum that you're not going to see the massive gains investment wise probably in Ethereum anymore. But I still think there is a ton of talent developing on Ethereum, like having an opportunity to interact with a lot of people from Consensus, not the event, but like Consensus, the Consensus with the Y, the Ethereum organization, or the Ethereum based organization. That's something that I think that there's still a ton of people working in that ecosystem, and it's going to be hard to make them leave to go to something else like EOS. No, Bobby, get off the stream. You're gonna make Bitcoin crash even more. I'm giving you a discount, bro. You gotta view it as a discount. I will provide you with a discount, or you head over to BitMEX. You short that bad boy, 100x leverage. Not financial advice. No, I'm just totally kidding. But So looking at some of these questions, trying to pop into them. Thoughts on Tron after his mainnet launch? So personally, one thing that I've seen, and I've seen it across the board, but I do think that companies increase in value pretty, or not companies, but these tokens, these projects, they'll increase in value up until they hit that mainnet. And the second they hit mainnet, a lot of times they've dropped off, they've fallen off. It's the old buy into the rumor, sell the news. The news is when mainnet happens, a lot of people, I think what I've seen happen quite a bit, whether it's a new project release or a new announcement or the company goes live, across the board, I've seen this where, people are excited. Basically the scenario is people get excited about the project. They buy whatever token. Let's just say Tron, for example. I'm not personally a fan of Tron, but they buy Tron, and they buy Tron because it's in testnet. It's gonna go on mainnet in, let's just say, July 1st. So they buy it now. It runs up. July 1st happens, hits mainnet, works well. Everything's great. You're holding Tron. You just made some money, and you think, okay, it's hitting mainnet. That means that the product is actually real now, and I'm going to make more money, and I'm just going to keep holding on. First day happens, 10, 15% down, whatever, 20% down, everybody's selling off. But you're sitting there and you're thinking, hey, you know what? Why would I sell off when this is hitting mainnet and it's going to be, it's going to be a real platform. It is a real platform now. There's value. Why would I sell? And then it just keeps going down and down and losing momentum. And then I've just seen that happen quite a bit across the board, and I do think that there is something to be said about that in the long run. Rude Mud Crab, good point. Talent doesn't want to use language like Solidity. I do think that there are a lot of people working with Solidity. I'm not a developer, so I've heard a lot of complaints about Solidity though, but it does seem like there are a lot of companies or other platforms that are allowing devs to utilize Solidity, for whether it's like Hashgraph, or even I think Cardano allows devs to port over Solidity based applications as well. So I don't know if there's some of these other platforms out there. I think like Lisk is JavaScript based, or some of these other ones. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the only reason that you get adoption, but I do think there are valid criticisms to Solidity. Although, like I said, I'm not an engineer. So I can't really speak to the specifics of it, but I've heard it's not the best programming language on the planet by any stretch. So Frank has a good point, and I talked about it a little bit, depending upon where, when you joined in on the conversation. But high quality people coming into the space and increased market adoption by institutions. I do think institutions are getting more and more and more into the space. I do think Consensus, being in New York, very institutional focused group of people. And I even, like, last night talking to a guy at an event. It was a happy hour, and there was a dude that I met that was saying, hey, I work at this big bank, big asset manager. We have billions and billions and billions of dollars in assets under management. I think it was like it was a lot. They have billions and billions of dollars in assets under management, and he is basically in charge of helping explore the opportunity for them to allow their clients to invest in cryptocurrency through their bank, and then probably at some point in time make money from that as well. So that's those are the types of conversations that real people out there are having. Is they're selling internally. There are, in a lot of cases, it's like the young techie dudes or whoever, or women as well, but like the younger individuals are the people that have been in the cryptocurrency space on the side, and they've been interested in it for a number of years. They work at one of these big banks, and the banks are like, hey, our clients are asking us every day, we want exposure to this cryptocurrency market, but we can't do that with you guys right now. So what do we do? And can you add that in? And that's why I think something like this, like with Nomura and Ledger, is pretty cool to see them build a digital assets custody solution for Bitcoin or for Ether or whatever it might be as well. Hashtag Young Tech guys. So John mentioned stablecoins. Stablecoins are the big. So right now, trend wise, and Jackson Palmer, I haven't gotten a chance to watch his video, but Jackson Palmer, if you don't watch his stuff, he is fantastic. Some of the best research video wise in the cryptocurrency space, probably actually the best research video wise, content wise in the cryptocurrency space. He did a video on stablecoins. There are a bunch out there. There are a lot of different ones. I've had conversations with guys that have created them. I've had conversations with guys that run them. And it's like one of the trendiest topics right now in the space is stable coins. There are asset-backed stable coins like what Tether is supposed to be, that are supposed to be backed by $1. There are algorithmic stable coins where basically, depending upon the value of the stable coin, the algorithm itself will adjust the supply and demand. There are two-tiered or two-token stable coins where there's the actual like coin pegged to $1, and then there's like an equity token based on top of that people can speculate off of. So there's something that's tied to $1, and then there's something that's a speculative asset for other people to trade as well, depending upon how the market is doing. So there are a lot of different components to it. A lot of people think that stable coins are completely, entirely 100% BS, and that they will collapse the second there is negative news in the crypto markets. Something to think about at this point in time. Yeah, so I saw, yes, the Circle announced a stablecoin today. Circle is, I believe, also now over $1 billion in valuation, which is pretty crazy. They make a killing across the board, especially I think in the OTC market. So Circle has been kind of quietly innovating and rebranding itself over the past year, really, and they've done well. Obviously, they acquired Poloniex too, so they're doing pretty damn well, and I think they just got a massive investment from a number of different people, or a number of different venture capitalists, which is pretty cool to see, outside of just the ICOs, but some of these infrastructure exchange type plays getting investment from big players in the space too. So a lot of people asking about Funfair. I don't have any specific thoughts on Funfair to give you any type of new updates there at all. Yeah, no good updates on my end, or any type of interesting insights that I could provide on that. And if you are watching this now, hit that thumbs up button. I would really appreciate that. It helps to get the video out to as many people as possible. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up button, that would be fantastic. So Polymath, is that a good buy right now? I believe Polymath is at the event, is at Consensus. I think I saw their booth. So I think not remembering off the top, but I believe I saw them. Personally, so I'm getting more and more involved in the security token space. I think that the security token space is going to do very well. In addition to stablecoins, security tokens are one of the hot trends right now. Last year was utility tokens and ICOs. Nobody wants to talk about ICOs anymore. Everybody's petrified of regulation. They don't really want to talk about initial coin offerings. They want to talk about security token offerings, or STOs. So Polymath is one of the only publicly traded tokens that you can basically speculate on in regards to security tokens at this point in time, which is, regardless of whether or not they're going to be the best play in the long run for security token infrastructure, they're one of the ways that you can kind of bet on the success of security tokens for the time being. So price wise, I'm not exactly sure, kind of the overall thought process on that. I do think that there are other, like I've said this before, there are other companies out there that have similar offerings to Polymath that I think are seeing success faster, but they do not have tokens that are tradable. So they're a little bit more under the radar per se. And I do think it's interesting. I think Polymath has a unique, I guess, unique value proposition. They have an interesting token ecosystem as well. And I do think the industry that they're in is going to be massive. And even if they don't end up doing anything really, I mean, I'm sure they have a lot of people working and they have a ton of money in the bank. I'm sure they're going to do well. But even if they aren't the most successful project, I do think that the fact that the security token kind of industry as a whole should see a lot of success over the next 12 to 18 months. I think it's really going to blow up in a big way, in a positive way, with the regulatory uncertainty around utility tokens. So I think Poly might be a benefactor to that. So taking a look at some of these questions, Spoonman just yelling at people yelling at Spoonman. What's up, Spoonman? Um, yeah, so JXB Bitcoin has a sidechain now, RSK, formerly Rootstock. Rootstock is something that a lot of people have looked to for years now, really, to help in terms of scaling Bitcoin as an alternative to ease in some of the issues with scaling Bitcoin and adding some of the capabilities that some of the other cryptocurrencies have. Something like RSK, essentially something like RSK is necessary when you think about the Bitcoin maximalist thesis that every other coin is going to die but Bitcoin, or every other coin is useless but Bitcoin. You're going to need additional layer 2 scaling solutions and layer 2 solutions to allow for that ability for Bitcoin to, if you are solely like a Bitcoin maximalist, or you just want to see as much utility around the Bitcoin ecosystem as possible, something like RSK Rootstock is going to be, I think, critical for the industry for Bitcoin to grow. JXB, what will it do to ETH? I don't think it'll do all that much personally. I think that there will be hardcore Bitcoin devs that will work on RSK, but for the time being, I don't see it doing all that much for ETH. I mean, right now, ETH's biggest, sounds bad, but in a lot of respects, right now, ETH's biggest killer app is the ICO, the initial coin offering, and the different token standards that you can create. The ERC20 token, I think the ERC 721 token, the non-fungible token. There are different types of tokens for. There are different different standards now for security tokens that have basically built-in kind of KYC AML restriction type of focuses. That's, in my opinion, one of the big. In addition to the amount of talent developing on Ethereum, that is like the different token standards are huge. So Ethereum is nowhere close to being the decentralized world computer that it was once promised, but I think there's still a tremendous amount of utility on it. So Jack Ross, thoughts on Polyswarm? So I actually might be meeting up with Steve, the founder of Polyswarm. I think he's in New York for Consensus, so I haven't had a chance to see him since I was in Miami. But yeah, I'm going to try to meet up with Steve, I think tomorrow before he heads out in New York, hopefully. Talking to him recently. So that should be, I like Polyswarm. I'm a fan of the project. I still have pretty decent size holding of Polyswarm. So I'm a fan of what they're doing. Like to see them have success, and I've met Steve on a few different occasions, the CEO of the project. Good dude. Yeah, solid dude. And it's tough too, because there's one tweet that I thought was funny, and so I'll pull this up as well. But people asked me before about some people asked me before about Ripple and my thoughts on Ripple as a whole. And let me see here. I'll pull this up. Where we got here. So you look here, and this is what I was talking about sometimes not liking some of the Ripple community on, sometimes not liking the Ripple community on Twitter. So, sorry about that, Michael. I'll hop over to that, man, right after this point. But basically, Ryan Selkis has been fairly critical at 2-Bit Idiot on Twitter. He's been fairly critical of Ripple and their kind of relationship with XRP and just kind of some of the marketing tactics to retail investors, essentially. But I think fairly critical. And he sat next to Joel Katz, who's like the lead cryptographer, who's like the top technical guy at Ripple, at an event, and basically just said, hey, it was nice to meet him. We chatted about different things. We agree on basically everything, Ripple related, XRP related, but he's a good dude. And then people were like, admit that you're wrong, blah 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 blah, like just going after him. He's an obvious troll, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, you just gotta, like, sometimes you can, somebody like Ryan, somebody like myself, somebody like yourself, you can dislike a project, or you can dislike the marketing behind a project, but you can still like the people that work there. People don't remove that fact that, like, you can be critical of a project, but at the same point in time, there can be like fantastic people that work there that are just great people. So something to think about. Michael, what's up, man? Sorry I missed that super chat. Appreciate that very much, man. How much do you manage protecting positions? If you're talking about like how much I risk the downside on certain positions, I think just going into a trade, it depends on the size of the trade and things like that. The size of the trade and the type of trade. Like if you're looking at something like Bitcoin, maybe you're looking at, maybe capping your downside risk to 15-20% or something like that. But if you're looking at like if I'm looking at something that might be an illiquid recent ICO or an illiquid coin that I'm really, really highly speculating on, that might only be a $10 million market cap or a $20 million market cap or a $40 million market cap, only trading on IDEX with maybe $30,000 in daily volume, that might drop 25, 30, 40%. But I'm okay with that because I might be more okay with that because I am not necessarily looking for the short term, or I'm just more flexible in terms of the fluctuations, because the upside is a lot greater for something that has that downside risk as well. So I think that it depends for me, the size of the trade, as well as the size of the trade / investment, because a lot of these are like short to medium term investments for me. But it also depends on what I'm looking at. My risk tolerance, my portfolio management on something like Bitcoin is going to be a lot different than it would be on something like a Polyswarm, like I just mentioned, where Polyswarm is, I think, only traded on HitBTC right now, and I think it's only traded on HitBTC for the most part, and some of the other like smaller decentralized exchanges like an IDEX. Yeah, so the majority of the volume's on HitBTC and IDEX. Not a ton of volume, $40 million is only a $15 million market cap. My risk tolerance on that is a lot higher than something than Bitcoin. If Polyswarm goes down 50%, yeah, it still hits my bank account 50%, but I think it's a lot easier for it to climb back up significantly than it is for something like Bitcoin to do. So that's my thought process on that. So looking at some of these questions, Iceberg, thoughts on the Gladius token, GLA team and project. So I met the Gladius team. They're a bunch of young dudes, actually, like pretty young dudes. Met them at the North American Bitcoin conference in Miami. Haven't really interacted with them at all since, but they seemed like nice dudes in person. I haven't really interacted with the project at all in a ton of depth. Travis, will you be at the Restart X event on Friday? I don't believe so. I'm not exactly sure which event that might be. I'll have to check. I have like a whole calendar of different events and schedules. Not exactly sure which one, but I off the top, I don't think that's one I don't think that's one I'm going to. Dale Thomas, did you check out the ARC booth at Consensus? I walked past it. They have a huge booth there. They definitely have a big booth, but I did not. I didn't talk to them in too much depth. Fake Supo in the house. What's up, Fake Supo? Thumbs up for Fake Supo, man. J-Bags, what's up? Did I run into any other fellow YouTubers at the conference? I I've talked to a couple of my buddies from Twitter. I haven't run into any of the YouTubers at this point in time. Looks like. There we go. There's the patented there's the patented Crypto Bobby YouTube live sell-off. Sorry for that candle, guys. My apologies. Every single time. Always hit that 100x short the second I go live, because you know what happens every single time, folks. Not financial advice, but yeah, it always dips every single time I go live. Every damn time. Every time. But yeah, so there's a crypto influence event on Thursday night, which I'll be going to, and that's basically a lot of people from YouTube, a lot of different individuals from YouTube that are going to be there, and I think there's going to be some other projects, but just kind of hanging out, talking to different folks. So that should be a fun time. I think I'll be giving a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a speech, but I'll be having a conversation with some people at that. So that should be a fun time. And then tomorrow evening, I'm going to an event for Securitize. So if you guys are familiar with Securitize at all, they're doing security tokens as well. So I'll be going to a security token related event tomorrow. So I'm excited about that, because I think that is one of the big potential areas for the industry to grow. So I'm gonna have fun going to that as well. Rick Chant, Bobby, when will you be crossing the George Washington Bridge? I'll say about 6:30 tomorrow morning. I get up early, go to the gym, 6:30 tomorrow morning. Let's go long then. Thanks, Travis. Appreciate that, man. And Bipasha, thank you very much for that super chat. Very nice of you. Thoughts on Elastos? I can pull up Elastos. Sinking ship will go to 4K like ToneVase predicted. I don't know. I'm personally not that bearish. I don't know if, I don't think we'll see 4K. If we do, I'll tell you one thing: I'm going to buy a shit ton of Bitcoin. If we see $4,000 Bitcoin, I will open up the checkbook and buy a good sum of. I will open up the checkbook and buy a good sum of Bitcoin there. I don't know if we're gonna see anything that aggressive. I kind of doubt it. But if we do, like I said, I'll definitely make sure to start buying. But yeah, I think it is funny though too. Like the second Bitcoin goes down $500, everybody says, "See, I told you. I should have sold at $9,000. I should have sold at $10,000. We're all going to hell. We're all doomed. We're gonna die. Bitcoin's dead." Bitcoin goes up $500, and then people said, "Ah, shit! I should have bought at $8,000. It's going to $10,000. It's going to $12,000. It's going to $50,000. Blah 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 blah." It's the same thing every single time. Thoughts on Elastos? I haven't actually read their white paper, done a ton of due diligence on the team at this point in time. As far as being the internet of the future, I think there's a couple other projects out there that I think are interesting to me in comparison to these guys. One that's not live is Blockstack. I really like what Blockstack is doing. They don't have a live token though, so it's not, a lot of people don't pay too much attention to them outside of when they speak at conferences. Let me pop down here, advisor team. That's an important guy. And that's a rather important guy. But that's an important guy right there. So, yeah, I need to dive into these guys a little bit more. Just knowing that the Jihan pump is behind the game. Thanks, J-Bags. Appreciate that, man. So Haroon mentioned the Zilliqa sharding news results wasn't sharding. Zill sharding news wasn't very promising, was just FUD. I didn't get a chance to see the recent news on Zilliqa. I do think Zilliqa does prove a really interesting point though, in that, and I kind of think that this is in my opinion, at least something where, yeah, Zilliqa's fallen off. But I do kind of think that when it comes down to like Zilliqa and a lot of these other platforms, Zilliqa is something that you can really easily sell. And I do think that that's important when it comes down to simplicity for a lot of these projects. The simpler it is to describe a project, if you can describe a project in 3 sentences, 2 sentences, that is way, way easier and way better than it's some super abstract, complex project that doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. Like Zilliqa, you could basically say, okay, this is Ethereum with sharding already built in when it hits mainnet. Boom. This is Ethereum that can scale because it already has sharding in it. That is like at Zilliqa, essentially. There's obviously a lot of nuances behind that, but you can explain that in a sentence or two, and then people who know what sharding is or just know the issues with scaling on Ethereum, they might be like, oh, okay, like maybe I'll research this a little bit more. I think that level of simplicity when it comes down to describing something is something that you should look for when it comes down to if you're investing or speculating in some of these assets, is something to look for, to consider, I think. Thanks a lot again, Travis. Appreciate that, man. And Paul, what's up, brother? As always, good to see you, man. Bitcoin Dips, I look over on YouTube and Bobby is live. I should have known. Apologies. Sorry for your loss. Sorry for my loss as well. If you guys want to hit thumbs up, that actually, I think, helps to drop the price even further. So hit the thumbs up button, and then either if you're shorting, you make money, or you can buy at a bigger discount. So that's all I have to say. Hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button. Supo Man, you to me, fake Supo Man, what's up? Handsome little devil with a green screen. RSK 1000X, yeah, go for it. A little rootstock action. Market cools off, aka the market drops when I should really just rename this crypto sad hour. I'm sorry, guys. So popping through some of these questions now. Any talks you want to watch tomorrow at Consensus? So I actually didn't get a chance to watch. There was one today that I think from an investment perspective, I haven't seen the stream. I didn't get a chance to watch the stream, but it was Ryan Selkis. It was Kyle Samani from Multicoin Capital. It was Alex Sunnerbarg, I believe, from Tetris Capital. It was like 5 or 6 dudes that are all in investing in the crypto space. They lead different crypto hedge funds that probably have between, like, let's say 25 and $150 million in assets. And I think that they all have very different investment theses, and they're all very smart dudes. One thing that you have to consider is that you can be the smartest person on the planet. Shitcoins still pump, and a lot of this stuff still has no explanation. But it is really cool to hear how some of the, maybe more well-versed individuals in the space think about investing. So that's one panel that I didn't get to see today that I want to see a recording of, but I need to look at tomorrow's schedule before I go so I can plan some things out as well. He's Buckins. Thanks, brother. You guys, at this point, I am getting ready for, since I'm an old man and it's 9:30 at night, I'm going to get ready for bed, because why the hell not? And because I got a long day of Consensus tomorrow, or popping in and out of Consensus work, and then some different meetings and things like that tomorrow. So I'm excited to hit the ground running tomorrow, so I'm not going to do crap tonight. Hopefully some of you guys are going to go watch Snoop Dogg with XRP, the standard team. That's probably pretty fun. I got to look on Twitter and see how crazy is that. Yeah, Snoop Dogg, if you're watching, brother, hit me up. Have you on the podcast. Big fan. And we'll kick the feet up, talk a little bit about crypto, and have a good one. But outside of that, guys, if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, the notify bell. If you've been here for a while, would really appreciate the thumbs up button. That will help to hopefully counteract the old crypto Bobby, crypto sad hour sell off, because that is an absolute fact and it happens every single time. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Peace.